Aloha, Fae folks. This information should have gone in part 1, but I learned about it after the video was nearly finished, and because of work, it's taken me weeks to release this part. But I think this new information is really interesting and adds to everything I said in part 1. The short of it is that there is more evidence of fairy-alien connection in the mythologies of the indigenous Hawaiian and Polynesian peoples. The long of it is the rest of this video. The Menehune are a race of legendary little people who supposedly inhabited Hawaii before humans and built ancient structures. This makes them akin to the Tuaha De Danann and the Turihu, who I talked about in part 1. Supposedly, the Menehune only came out at night to build things, so we get a night association as well as the implication of advanced technology. The short height, 2 to 3 feet tall, also makes them similar to the Greys. It's also important to note that on the island of Flores in Indonesia, skeletons have been found of 3 feet tall hominids called Homo floresiensis. I'm not saying these are skeletons of Greys, but I'm also not saying that either. Additionally, we have no proof that Homo floresiensis ever came to Hawaii, but I thought it was worth mentioning. The Indonesians have their own myth about the Ibu Gogo. They were ape-like, small and hairy, were said to have their own language, and kidnapped human children. According to one tale, the last Ibu Gogo were killed by the Indonesians in the 1700s, so the Ibu Gogo, Homo floresiensis, and the Menehune could all be the same creature. Now, there are some structures supposedly built with the Menehune in Hawaii that I want to talk about. Again, I do not want to imply that ancient BIPOC peoples could not have built these advanced structures. It would be impressive for any advanced people to have constructed these things, and in the Hawaiians' own myths, the Menehune made these places. So I'm going to explore these myths and the possibility that they were made by fairies/aliens. First is Cxdy, a historic irrigation ditch on the island of Kauai. The masonry of the ditch wall is quite advanced. The stones are fitted together so well that they don't require mortar. This type of stonework is seen nowhere else in Hawaii at this time period. British explorer Captain George Vancouver described it as being an impressive 24 feet high when he viewed it in 1793. Historians believe it predates Tahitian settlers, and the oral tradition of the island states that it was built with the Menehune under the cover of night. Some sources claim that the Menehune brought the stones for the ditch from another site 25 miles away. However, I was unable to find a credible source verifying this claim. Both AncientOrigins.com and an episode of the History Channel's America Unearthed claim this, and I put that in my sources so you, viewers, can look and judge for yourselves the credibility. If the rocks came from far away, this makes Cxdy similar to Stonehenge in England. Some of the stones in that monument came from the Preseli Hills in southwest Wales. Stonehenge also has a ditch like Cxdy. We have no idea who built it, like Cxdy, and England is right next to Ireland, home of the Tuaha De Danann myths. The Alakoko Menehune fish pond, and according to some sources, the ceremonial sites on Necker Island, are also said to have been made by the Menehune. Lastly, I want to mention that it has been put forth that the Menehune were small in social stature, not literal stature, and were not supernatural, but rather lower-class citizens. In 1820, Hawaii took its first census, and 65 people were listed as Menehune. In a Hawaii Public Radio interview, Frederick Bruce Wichman states, and I quote, "The 1914 census in Waniha, there were, I believe, 14 people who claimed Menehune descent. In fact, one of them was the head fisherman for Waniha and Hina. He was a little man, a small man. His wife was almost triple his height. Does that prove that the Menehune were human? I really can't say. Either way, this information is fascinating and should have been in part 1. There's more to come in this series, and this won't be the last we hear of the Menehune."